What's up, guys? It's Doodoo Poker here, back for another video. Today we are going to be talking about how to play fish when they donk in 3-bet pots. We have MDA, so we need to understand how we should be playing fish when they do what fish do. Fish love to donk. They donk much more than theory. We know this from MDA, so we need to understand the 3-step process. First, we need to look at the formation. Is it a wide formation or is it a tight formation? Secondly, we need to look at the line. Is it a check call donk bet line, a donk bet line, or a check call donk line? And thirdly, we need to look at the sizing. So we know fish are not completely positionally aware, but they do play looser in wider formations. That means we need to bluff catch more versus a wide formation than a tight formation. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. I gave you 3 lines. Which line is the strongest out of these 3 donk lines? The check call donk bet line. That means I C bet, he donks turn, then he bets river. The donk flop bet turn bet river line, or the check call flop check call turn donk line. We need to understand which of these is the strongest and which of these is the weakest. Let's go to the weakest line first. We'll go to the weakest line first and we'll look at some MDA. The weakest line out of those 3 lines is going to be the check call donk bet line. They call flop, they donk turn, they bet river. This is the weakest fish line. I'm going to show you data. We're going to go to the tightest formation first, and then we're going to go to gradually looser formations. This is the field as the 3-bet pot out of position pre-flop caller. Check call flop donk turn bet river line under the gun in hijack versus in position. The fish is going to be under the gun or hijack. We see here from the data, we use our fish strategy. We know when they donk turn, it is going to be over bluffed and bet river. Even the over bet is over bluffed. These are over decent sample sizes. So we need to be calling down with ace highs when they bet under bet 100. And if they over bet, we need to be calling with our 0 EV bluff catchers. Let's go to a looser formation for the same line. This is the check call donk bet line. Let's go to cutoff versus button. We see even at bet 100, if we bet flop, they donk turn and bet river. This is over bluffed. So we need to be calling down with our ace highs versus this very weak line. And now I'm going to go to the loosest formation, small blind versus big blind 3-bet. We see this is very over bluffed. So we call down with our ace highs. All right, now I'm going to go to the strongest line. What do you think the strongest line is? Well, the strongest line is the check call donk line. Let's go to check call donk. I'm going to go to the tightest formation first, and then we'll go gradually to looser formations. We see in the field as the 3-bet pot out of position pre-flop caller as check call donk under the gun and hijack versus in position. Fish MDA are still over bluffing, but now the bigger bets are getting GTO-ish or under bluffed. So we can still call with our bluff catchers, but we cannot call with ace highs because remember, the dark green is low pair. We are going to get value owned if we call with ace highs versus the check call donk line in this formation. Let's go to cutoff versus button, and we see the same thing. Very over bluffed. Even though this is the strongest line, they still over bluff, but they're bluffing merged. They're bluffing merged, so we cannot call with ace high unless it's the light green. And finally, we'll go to small blind versus big blind 3-bet, and we see it is again over bluffed, but they are merged, so we cannot call with ace high. And the bet 100 is under bluffed. So let's go over the last and final line, which is the donk bet, which is right in between the check call donk bet line and the check call donk line. We see from the donk bet line, let's go to the tightest formation first, that again this is over bluffed, but it's over bluffed with low pair. So again, we need to be careful with bluff catching with ace highs. That is the tight formation. As we gradually get looser, we see they bluff more because fish are still somewhat positionally aware, although not as positionally aware as regs. And finally, we go to the small blind versus big blind, and we see the donk bet line is over bluffed. So let's summarize what we learned today. We learned that the check call donk line is the strongest line. The check call donk bet line is the weakest line. We need to look at sizing. We also need to look at formation. In the tighter formations, they'll have less bluffs and more merged of a range. In the very tight formations, when they overbet, they're going to be under bluffing. In the loose formations, when they overbet, they're going to be over bluffing but with a merged range. So we need to take that into consideration when we are thinking about bluff catching with ace highs. In general, do not bluff catch ace highs versus the check call donk. In general, do bluff catch ace highs versus the check call donk turn bet river because that's the weakest line. Versus the donk bet line, look at formation and sizing. And remember, the check call donk line is the strongest line, and the check call donk bet line is the weakest line. If you enjoy this type of content, please give me a like, please give me a subscribe. New video every single day, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.